Hello, I'm Erik Wait, and this is lesson 7 in our study of covenant theology. And in this lesson, we'll be looking at the Davidic Covenant. The Davidic Covenant has some unique features among the covenants between the Lord and his people. Some writers assert that all of the other Old Testament covenants are conditional, whereas the Davidic covenant is unconditional, or they'll say the Noahic covenant is a general covenant of all of creation and it's unconditional, whereas the other covenants are conditional, or that others are based on merit, whereas this covenant is based purely on grace with no stipulations, duties, or requirements. But such an understanding of the Davidic covenant is inaccurate. We find the Davidic covenant in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 8 to 16. Now then, this is what you shall say to my servant David. This is what the Lord of armies says. I myself took you from the pasture, from following the sheep to be leader over my people Israel. And I have been with you wherever you have gone, and have eliminated all your enemies from you. I will also make a great name for you, like the names of the great men who are on the earth. And I will establish a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, so that they may live in their own place and not be disturbed again, nor will malicious people oppress them any more as previously, even from the day that I appointed judges over my people Israel. And I will give you rest from all of your enemies. The Lord also declares to you that the Lord will make a house for you. When your days are finished and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your descendant after you, who will come from you, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. When he does wrong, I will discipline him with a rod of men and with strokes of sons of mankind. But my favor shall not depart from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed from you. Your house and your kingdom shall endure before me forever. Your throne shall be established forever. Although the term covenant is not used in the text, it is used in Psalm 89 and Psalm 132, which are clearly tied to the event in 2 Samuel 7. If we compare the Davidic covenant with the other covenants in the Old Testament, we find it has some unique features. First, like all of the other covenants in the Old Testament, as well as the New Covenant, the Davidic covenant is initiated by the Lord. The covenant with Adam was initiated by the Lord when Adam was created, not after the Lord found Adam to be righteous. The covenant with Noah was initiated by the Lord after noting that Noah was a righteous man, unlike the rest of the world, as the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and every inclination of the thoughts on the human heart was only evil all the time. Genesis 6:5. The Lord's covenant with Abraham was initiated when he called Abram to come out from amongst his relatives in Ur. There was no general call to all the people asking who will make a covenant with the Lord. Abraham did not on his own volition forsake the gods of his fathers and search for the truth, at which time the Lord made a covenant with him. Rather, the Lord initiated the call and covenant with Abraham. The covenant with Moses was established by the Lord after he heard the cry of his people in bondage in Exodus 3:7. In keeping with the Abrahamic covenant, the Lord remembered his promise and delivered them from Egypt, Exodus 3:15. But the Israelites were a stubborn and stiff-necked people, prone to seeking to be like the Gentiles and worshiping their gods, Exodus 32:9 and Deuteronomy 31, verses 20 to 27. The covenant with David was initiated by the Lord in response to David's desire to build a house for the Lord. Unlike the other covenants, he is not delivered from a pending judgment on the world, as with the Noahic covenant, or the judgment on Egypt, as with the Mosaic covenant. Whereas the Abrahamic and Mosaic covenants called the people to be separate, indicated with signs and laws to make a distinction between their seed and the seed outside of the covenant, This was not so with the Davidic Covenant. David is not called out or made separate from the tribe of Judah or the people of Israel, so there is no additional covenant signs and memorials. While the covenant is specifically made with David's seed, by association, the blessing of the Davidic covenant will be upon all of the Lord's people, regardless of their tribe. As we have seen, all of the other covenants make a distinction between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, Eve. In order to mark this distinction, the covenant have covenant signs, circumcision, and laws such as food laws, clothing laws, and so forth, in order to mark those within the covenant as holy and separate from the other nations or the Gentiles. The Davidic covenant does not initiate any new signs or laws of distinction, for the Lord was not separating David's seed from the tribe of Judah or the nation of Israel. Therefore, we can think of the Davidic covenant as a subset within the Abrahamic and Mosaic covenants, making a clear distinction as to the identity and the origin of the seed of promise. That being said, we find the Davidic covenant follows the fivefold structure of the other covenants, with the noted exceptions as follows. First is the king. That is an identification of the king redeemer, 2 Samuel 7:5 and Psalm 89:1. Second is the gospel, an accounting of the historical events that led to the establishment of the covenant, 2 Samuel 7:6, 10 and 12, and Psalm 89:3, 20 and 23. Third is the law, that is the stipulations and terms of the covenant, of which include love, faith, and fidelity, 2 Samuel 7, Psalm 89, verses 30 to 32. 4. Penal sanctions, a warning of judgment and penal sanctions against anyone who is not faithful, but a promise to those who maintain fidelity, 2 Samuel 7:14 and Psalm 89, 30 to 32. Fifth, the signs, a mean of confirming the covenant, which normally involved food, oaths, and memorials. These are provided in the Abrahamic and Mosaic covenant. There is no additional ones in the Davidic covenant. As noted, the Davidic covenant is an addendum to the Abrahamic and Mosaic covenant, with no additional sign, rite, or memorial being provided. Otherwise, the descendant of David would be a segregated people within the tribe of Judah, separated from the other tribes. One of the purposes of the covenant signs is to make a distinction between those who are in and outside of the covenant, between clean and unclean, between holy and unholy. David is not called out from the tribe of Judah or the nation of Israel, as Abraham was called out from the people of Ur, or as Israel was called out from the Egyptians, or as Christians are called out from the world. The requirements for faith, love, and obedience, as well as stipulations and warnings of a covenant, are often marked by a conditional if. We clearly see these in the Davidic covenant in Psalm 89, verses 30 to 32. If his sons abandon my law and do not walk in my judgment, and Psalm 132, verses 11 to 12. If your sons keep my covenant. Contrary to the stipulations of the covenant, most of David's descendants that sat on the throne rebelled against the covenant, intermarried with Gentile nations, Deuteronomy 7, verses 2 to 4, and 1 Kings 3:1, worshipped foreign gods, and led the people into apostasy. Chief among them was David's son, Solomon, as we read in 1 Kings 11. Consequently, the Lord tore the kingdom from Solomon and divided it, 1 Kings 11:11. Subsequently, the sin committed at Sinai was repeated by Jeroboam, 1 Kings 12:28. Rehoboam, son of Solomon, became king, and all of Judah did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, worshipped Asherah on high places with male shrine prostitutes, 1 Kings 14, verses 1 to 24. This went on generation after generation until finally the long suffering of the Lord came to an end. Under the judgment of the Lord, Jerusalem was besieged by the Babylonians. Zedekiah's eyes were plucked out. He was carried away into captivity, and the temple was destroyed in 587 BC. Subsequently, most of David's sons did not sit on the throne as the nation went into exile. But this judgment would have happened sooner if it had not been for the Lord's promise to David, as we read, "Nevertheless, for the sake of his servant David, the Lord was not willing to destroy Judah. He had promised to maintain a lamp for David and his descendants forever." 2 Kings 8:19. See also 1 Kings 11:12, 32 to 36, 1 Kings 15:4, and Psalm 132:10. Zedekiah at 597 BC was the last to sit on the throne in Jerusalem. But in Ezekiel 21 verses 26 to 27, the Lord says, "Remove the turban and take off the crown. This will no longer be the same. Exalt that which is low and humble that which is high. Ruins, 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 I will make it. This also will no longer be until he comes whose right it is, and I will give it to him." Consequently, not until the resurrection, glorification, and ascension of Jesus Christ did David have a descendant or a seed on the throne. We read about this in Acts 2, 30 to 32, Ephesians chapter 1, verses 20 to 21, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 13 to 15, and Revelation 19:13. So we see in dispensational theology and in the ethical intrusion theology of Meredith Kline and some of those who hold to the covenant of works, covenant of grace paradigm, the assertion that in the Bible there are conditional and unconditional covenants. But as we've been seeing, all of the covenants have conditions. Even the Davidic covenant has a condition. Now, there is this promise that David will have a seat on the throne forever. It gets interrupted, as we just read about. So he has seeds or sons on the throne, but because they broke covenant, the nation of Israel went into captivity, and for a time period, nobody was sitting on the throne. But because that promise still remains, that covenant is finally fulfilled, that promise is fulfilled in Jesus Christ. So it's conditional. Israel broke the covenant. Descendants from David broke covenant, and they were punished as stipulated in the penal sanctions that are in the covenant. But it was kept, that is, the Lord's side of the covenant is kept in Jesus Christ. And there'll be no one following him. He is the final, he is the seed. They were seeds. He is the seed of the Davidic covenant. He is the seed of the woman, that is Eve, who crushed the head of the seed of the serpent. Alrighty, I hope you have been blessed by this lesson. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And until next time, may the Lord richly bless you.